Good afternoon, this is Xfinity Channel on Education. What I love about our profession, teaching, is that we actually never stop learning. Professional development is of extreme importance so that we always are up to standards and make the most of our classes. But what are the areas that we need to work on and improve and upskill? How do we know what needs perfecting and improving? What we are going to discuss today is precisely continuous teachers development. We're going to do it with Gabriela Pinto in Madrid and Graham Bell in Malaga. Rob Wiley is here with me in Barcelona. I'm Radmila Gurkova. Let's get started. Hi guys, how are you?
Oh, good.
Good?
Yeah.
Good. Rob and Graham, you are teacher trainers. So any teaching career usually starts with a TEFL course. But most TEFL courses are actually very much focused on academic knowledge. So even the well-marketed brands such as CELTA or TESOL devote only 6%, 7% to teaching practice, teaching with real students. So what is the expected result of this fact, Graham?
Well, if you're really putting that amount in, I mean, the best part of teaching is the practical part. You can't read a book and learn to be a teacher, so it really is the experience and the feedback you get from, pardon me, from other teachers that offer that real learning experience.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's one of the things we do have well here, right? That fact that we do have the teaching practice. So I remember when I was learning and training, you know, it was okay, obviously you learn the grammar and stuff, but it was the actual being in the classroom in front of the students. That was how I learned, you know, and that's the most important part. So I think to have 6 or 7% is ridiculously low.
Yeah, because what the British Council advises is that input hours should be around between 100 or exceed 100. Or 120, so this is what these courses have, but only 8 hours are devoted to teaching practice, which is quite low. Yeah. Gabriela, you're a recent graduate actually, and regarding teaching practice, what was your impression? Was it useful? What part of the course was useful for you?
I think all parts of the course are useful because you need to understand the theory to implement it in the teaching practice, but certainly for me, I found when I started teaching, then it was when I had challenges with my teaching, then I could refer back to my theory. And so the learning was much more practical and immediate. And so I could actually use it in the classroom instead of just reading a book, which is theoretical, but then doesn't really give me the hands-on experience I need.
Yeah, and being with another teacher or qualified teacher, right? So being with that teacher allows you to learn all the little techniques that you can't learn from a textbook, and all these kind of like little tips and hints that you get, you only learn by observing a teacher and then doing it yourself.
Exactly. Go on, Gabriela.
No, and it's also nice when you're learning with a teacher because you can chat about things afterwards, you know, like what are the challenges, how can you fix them, how can you improve your classes, which is really important. Yeah,
feedback, right? You need the feedback.
Yeah.
Both positive and negative.
Exactly.
Go on, Graham?
Yeah. I was going to say, like what we showed at the TEFL students in the course is the perfect example of how teaching can work. And there's also that grey area between that and reality. And I think that's what the real taste that teachers get when they go out to work with students, is realizing that it's not always the perfect scenario to teach a student. And it's finding that grey area and how you take the perfect teaching example and you fix it with reality. And you're always challenging yourself to get towards that perfect teaching, because there is a gap between the two. And you don't learn that until you start teaching. And that's the best that I find for the teachers to go out.
So for the newly qualified teachers, what are the challenges? How would you summarize them? What should they be looking to improve? One thing is the teaching practice. What else? Practical knowledge.
You mean in the classroom itself? What they
for instance,
have to learn?
Exactly.
I guess they have to learn how to get their point across in a clear way, you know. I think overcomplicate. You know, when you're starting, you try to overcomplicate things, and I think keeping it as simple as possible. Explanations, this type of thing.
Excellent.
It's a massive challenge. It's this, the simpler it is, the more effective it is. And also my biggest challenge when I started becoming a teacher was my language grading and my teacher talking time. And that's the real biggest challenges I think faces you when you first start, is how do I actually talk to a beginner student?
That's the hardest thing for us all, I think, when we start out. I think everyone, when we're doing the training, it's the thing that you have to point out the most and practice the most, and it's through practice, that you learn how.
And once the trainees finish their course, what do you think is the basic kit, so to speak, that teachers need for quality classes?
Well, first they need good material, right? No, they need a good training and a good system, something that works for them.
Regarding good systems, what are the main systems that we can find, Rob?
So we're thinking about the models, no?
The models,
the different models, yeah. So there's two different kind of models that are adopted. The most popular and typical one, which is done by most academies and schools, is sort of like the content is taught, the students memorize, and then they have an exam to test them at the end of the year or the end of the month or whatever, at the end of the term. And I think that's what the majority of schools adopt that method. If you do this, then the sole objective of the student becomes to pass an exam. Yeah. How beneficial that is, I don't really know. So what we've done, we try to teach it through association, So trying to make it relevant, if you like. So we practice the essential elements, what somebody needs if they're traveling, or what somebody needs if they're moving to a country. And through practicing in sort of a real life situation, step by step, they learn. Okay. They learn. And it's a more practical approach, let's say, rather than just, this is it. This is a list of words or grammar or whatever. Pass the exam, you can speak English. No, it doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
It's pushing the functionality. Make sure it's functional. Everything must be functional. Otherwise, they won't use it. And they won't remember it. They won't associate to memory or emotion.
What we have to memorize, it's we can easily forget. So maybe better to just.
I mean, if you think back to when we were in school, right? Like the whole objective is to pass exams, but you'd sit there, you'd memorize whatever you had to memorize. You'd do the exam, and I'd forgotten it 10 minutes after the exam. Because I put it to the back of my mind, it's not important anymore, and I just forgot it.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was something practical and you sort of.
So this is the system that you would advise new teachers to follow, like to give their students the main elements with which they can build speech and upgrade.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is not mentioned in TEFL courses usually? Those things that remain, we teach academic content and we give them teaching practice, but what remains not mentioned?
There's a couple of things that I noticed that gap from, and it varies from TEFL course to TEFL course, and I don't just mean brand, I mean even from the institute that's running each particular branded course, is their actual application of theory. They all know and have read and
for my students or potential students, and does it interest me? So if I'm going to be creating content or stories, whether it's a podcast or a blog post or a video, is it something that I think they would be interested in learning? Does it relate to where they live? I think that's because I'm learning Spanish at the moment. So a lot of the questions that I have, or when I'm trying to use or speak Spanish, I often think about things that I'm interested in and my own experiences. So I kind of flipped that on its head and thought, well, if I was learning English, what would I like to know? So, and that in pop culture as well, like what movies are out there? Are there, like Narcos Mexico was just released. So I'm going to do a podcast on that because that's interesting to people. And you've got to make the content interesting, valuable, and you have to have a call to action at the end, which we do have on our blog post, which is Try a Free Class. So I think those are the main things: relevance, value, and functionality.
Amazing. And what tools do you use to create your content?
So there's a couple of hacks that you can use. There's a great online program called Canva, which is really cool to design social media posts. It's got nice graphic options, a lot of free options you can use, and you can have something that looks really professional. And then to create a podcast, I literally use my cell phone. I go to YouTube Library. They have free music that you can use there. And then I have a program called Adobe Premiere. So I literally just import the track, I import the picture, and I export it, and I upload it to YouTube. And the great thing is that it sounds really complicated, but it's really easy. You can literally YouTube how to do everything. And I think another important thing to mention as well is you don't have to have the best equipment to create this kind of stuff. You don't need to have state of the art. I mean, you can literally just take your cell phone and create something. And I think that's an important thing to think about, because you also have to think about why you're creating it. You know, we're not creating something for like Disney. We're creating something to attract new students and to help them learn. So find the easiest way to do it and the most efficient way to do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Gabriella, do you have like a background in anything like that in
I believe she does.
Yeah?
Yes, so I've had an interesting career, to say the least, but I've worked as a broadcaster in radio, on live TV, and in digital journalism. So I do have a background where I had to use these skills, but to be honest with you, no one really formally taught me. I just kind of YouTubed stuff and found my own way, and taught myself how to do it.
Very cool.
Amazing. Cool. And any tip for new teachers or for teachers who would like to start promoting themselves?
I think one of the biggest things is we always feel awkward when we're trying to write about ourselves, or we think is what I'm writing, does it matter? You know, what if people think I'm being stupid? The tip is to just be you. Find what interests you and don't be shy. Like, a lot of things are trial and error. Maybe one post is going to do really well and the other one doesn't. It's about consistency. So find what interests you. Think about what would interest your students, where those two things can meet. And it's just about consistently doing it and being yourself. That's the most important thing.
How often do you...
That's what's most valuable.
Okay. Yeah. And how often do you post? Do you make blog posts?
At the moment, I'm busy still playing around, so I'm using 3 different channels. I'm using the blog that we have, I'm using YouTube, where I want to post podcasts and videos, and I have an Instagram account. So my Instagram account, I post a new word that people can learn based on a theme every day. Podcasts, I'd like to do once a week, and blogging maybe once, twice a week, depending. I'm going to experiment and see how things go. But my idea is another tip, to create content. So maybe take like a day just to create your content, so that you don't have to create content every day. So you can literally then just post it.
So you've already got it ready.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been trying to do. But it's trial and error, and it's experimenting.
Yeah, of course. Amazing. So we mentioned tools, and Gabrielle shared a couple of very good ideas about what tools to use. Tools are very important. TEFL courses usually don't mention what tools teachers to use, but they need them, don't they?
Big time. I remember when I'm qualifying and then applying for jobs, and them asking me for a video CV. Even the basics of things like this, I was like, what am I supposed to do? It's massive technology and learning to do these things, and they don't teach them traditionally in any TEFL course I'm aware of.
Exactly. And a video CV is probably much more straightforward than a written CV.
Yeah.
Transmit better.
Yeah. And in actual fact, last week I was helping a friend of mine do a video CV. Yeah. It's something that I think more and more now is asked, to make like a little recording of yourself. Guess it's more fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple
we've got some comments and questions. So Tor has said that he's been teaching for the last 3 months. But over that time, the theory, if you like, has kind of faded day by day, because obviously now he's teaching, so the theory. Do we think it's wise for him to kind of dig back and look at the materials from his TEFL course, to help him again. Well, not to help, but just to, you know, just have a little refresh, if you like. He said the students are usually pleased with the teaching, but sometimes it's difficult to judge himself. So
That's an interesting question.
yeah. So I mean,
What do you think, Graham?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not second out. If you want to be able to reflect, you need to know your stuff. It will protect you. It will make you, when you have a bad day and you think you're the worst teacher on the planet, and you look back and you self-assess and you go, actually, I did everything right. Maybe there was a motivational issue, a behavioral issue out with, you know, an extrinsic factor you can control. It protects you.
Mm.
And if you want to get better, then you have to look at all these things. And the material's there because these guys have access. When they've done our TEFL course, they have access to the material continuously. They can keep looking back at it. They didn't have to take notes. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that, Tor. Go back and have a look at what you've done and look at your essay, Tor. That'll help you too.
No, well, yeah. Well, from what he said, anyway, no, he's just kind of like a refresh because, you know, he's doing great classes and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always good to have a little refresh, isn't it? You know, you always forget something, and it's like we've said in the past, you're always learning, and you can always think, oh, actually, I need, you know, could do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But apart from remembering old stuff, teachers need to learn new stuff.
Yeah.
So how do they do it? What can we recommend they do to learn more?
Well, I mean, I think, again, we mentioned it before, they can learn from each other.
Exactly.
We have meetings, we have these talks, we have meetings on Fridays, we discuss ideas, you know. For maybe the newer teachers, maybe they, you know, pick up some tips and hints from maybe longer teachers, people who've been teaching longer. If that makes sense, not longer teachers, but you know what I mean.
Well, becoming a mentor may help as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you recommend?
You know, we have, because we teach online, they can always request us to let them observe another teacher, even when you're qualified. If you want to observe a teacher, just to refresh your skills. There's nothing wrong with that. We have the system that allows us to do that. All they have to do is discuss that with us, or go to IT, and they can send them a link, the materials, and they can still watch teachers teach even when they're qualified.
Yeah, yeah.
Some teachers are reluctant to have another one observing them. Do we have to worry if we have an observer with us?
Not to worry now.
They're not there to judge us.
They're not there to judge. At the end of the day, if they're just starting out, they're there to learn, right? So they're not there to criticize you or anything. They're there to learn, and they want to learn. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I can, on the other hand, understand why maybe some people would be nervous. No, I think, especially maybe if it's one of the first few times, you know, if you've got someone observing you for the first time, maybe then as a teacher you feel a little bit more under pressure. It's like, okay, I need to remember to do a good wrap up and etc. But no, at the end of the day, they're there to learn.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
But it's great. I mean, when you get the feedback, because we've got the feedback part on our classes, and if someone is observing you, the actual observer can give you feedback too, and it's really helpful. I think I got observed once, and someone told me I'd forgotten to do something, and I was like, oh, so I did.
Yeah.
And it helped me to reflect. And I was like, oh yeah, tricky. I'm not being as good as I could, and as long as you check your ego and you don't take it, and you just go, okay, I needed that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could take it one of two ways, right? Someone could take it like you and be like, okay, fair enough, actually, I hold my hands up, you've got a point, I didn't do that. Or then maybe another type of person would maybe react a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. It just depends how you take it.
In any case, peer observation, monitoring, that is very helpful. What else can help teachers to upskill?
Feedback from students.
Okay.
I guess if you get feedback, positive and negative, you can only positive, obviously. You can learn from the students, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do with students. I mean, depending on what you're trying to advertise. I mean, if you've got a friend who's learning English, I mean, I'm doing some work with a friend of mine who wants to be able to show her ability to speak English. And I want to show how well I can teach. So we're going to do a little video, and I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn, and she's going to post it on hers. And it'll be her demonstrating how well she can speak, plus me demonstrating how well I pronunciate when I'm teaching and how easy I would be to work with. Things like this can be helpful. Collaborative work with your students, if you get the opportunity. Anything to showcase how well you teach, and also for the student, for them to show how well they can speak. It's a beneficial to both of you.
Okay, we have another.
Yeah, we got a question from Julie. So she says, what are some obstacles or skills that have been acquired before that would prove as a hindrance for teachers to skill up?
Okay, that's interesting too.
I'm trying to figure this one out.
Well, I think I understand. Is there anything that we've learned in the past that is going to be an obstacle in our new career? That's what I understood.
It's a good question. Put us all on the spot there, Julie.
Well,
Yeah.
on the top of my head, for instance, teachers that are used to too much writing on the blackboard, for instance.
Okay, now again.
Yeah,
So something that they've
maybe.
learned maybe, and then they've had to change system and something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
go on.
No, I was just thinking any situation where you've had to deal with large groups of people,
Yeah.
you have to project yourself in a certain way, and it becomes more like a television. You know, you're just projecting yourself one direction, and when you come to teach, you have to be more interactive. So I think if you came from that background, that would be difficult for you because you got to listen as well as speak.
Yeah, going off a little bit what you said, Randy, that I'm from thinking about sort of TEFLs that I've had in the past to maybe have worked for maybe 10, 15, 20 years even in a system where it was very much kind of, like the old school, like teacher talks and students write notes. Sometimes it's hard to get them to change their opinion because they're so kind of set in their ways that getting them to change their opinion and getting them to reduce the teacher talking time and encourage students to talk more, then sometimes that takes a little bit of work.
True.
I think that's the one that I see the most, I guess.
And then,
Same with how people learn. Some people learn English in a certain way, the traditional kind of grammar translation way. Trying to get them to go into more of a direct method is difficult for them because they're like, I learned this way, it's successful, so I'm going to teach this way. And trying to get them to be flexible can be tough too.
Yeah.
this actually happens with many students. They think that because they learned something with a more grammar-based approach, we have to give it to them now as well. So how can we deal with that? We know that it's counterproductive, but a student wants that. What can we do? Let's give that tip to new teachers, because I think that some people tend to please or try to please their students way too much. So what can we do in the case that we know something is counterproductive for the student, but they request us to do it?
I mean, I guess you've just got to point out the positives, no? Some positives. I guess, I'm trying to think of students who've maybe been like that when I've had a situation like that, and I think over time, they've actually come round to it. Maybe it takes 2, 3, 4 weeks, or I don't know, 4, 5, 6 classes. But I think when they see actually it's a lot more effective, then they come round to the idea.
Yeah.
Some are more willing than others.
Okay.
Some people actually think, okay, I've never learned like this before, but I'm going to give it a go. Why not? I'll see. And they jump straight in and they love it. And others, like you say, maybe it takes a little bit longer, a little bit more time. But I guess by showing them the method.
It's encouraging them to be open, isn't it? Like saying, okay, I'm not saying my way's right, I'm not saying your way's wrong, but let's do a little mix of both. And it's the same way Gabriella's doing all her media. It's just trial it out, see what happens. And if they disagree with you, then do it their way, if that's the way they want to do it from a student's perspective. If they learn better that way, at the end of the day, if they're not open to learn your way, they're not going to learn your way whether it's better or not. So you've got to kind of meet them halfway, right?
Gabriella, have you had students that request too much grammar, for instance, or something that you are not quite convinced about?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes that does happen if they don't realize that the grammar is part and parcel of the exercises that we do, but we don't say now we're going to do grammar. So I mean, it completely depends the situation. I've had a situation where I had a kid and I arrived at the house and the mom was like, oh, he has a test tomorrow. Can you help him with his test? So obviously I wasn't going to say no in that situation, but I tried to adapt the material for the test and using the Oxinity approach and using more of a communicative approach. And because he was a kid, he didn't really question me about that. With an adult, it might be different, and I haven't experienced that, so I can't say. But I don't know, I guess I agree with you, Graham. Like, I think encouraging them to at least try a different way, and then you can see afterwards.
Perfect. Okay, I think we have...
Yeah, we've got another question from Harvey, who says, is it possible for a teacher to change their teaching method across time? Or should a teacher always stick to one method?
Definitely change across time. Yeah, just keep trialing out, change from student to student. You never know which way you're going to, I mean, I don't know what he means by methods, it's many terms, but yeah, you're always changing your style to suit different students. I teach some people who particularly like grammar translation. They want to know the formula. They want to know like that. It's how their mind works. And I have other guys who want to be engaged and they want me to challenge them by getting them to induct it and give them examples. It just depends from student to student, I think, Harvey.
Yeah, and like Gabriella just mentioned, right? It depends maybe if you're teaching kids or you're teaching an adult.
Yeah.
That changes completely, right?
Some teachers are very scared of new technology, like computers and the digital platform. This is kind of scary for them. What can we tell them so that they're not so scared?
I guess it's one of those things you've just got to...
From the user's point of view, you guys are using technology and it wasn't difficult to learn, right?
No, I mean, as long as the platform's very simple, which ours is, no, it's effective and it's easy to use, it's very user-friendly. So I think, again, thinking about people who maybe are a little bit more technophobic or whatever, they get used to it really simple. So long as the platform's easy to use, then it's fine.
Yeah, and our platform is quite user friendly, and I think we spend quite a lot of time showing guys how to use it. And I'm pretty sure the IT team are going to kill me for saying this, but they're really helpful. And any problem I've ever called them, they've debugged my computer, they've shown me how to use this, that, and the next thing, things that aren't even involved with our system. They've helped us with. It's part of the beauty, I guess, of the collaborative system we have, is we have a support network of IT guys too. And yeah, I always use them to help me out with stuff that I don't understand.
No.
Actually, they're about to launch another version of the app, much better. So very soon it will be our Christmas gift to teachers. Yeah. But I've seen a little bit of it, and I can tell you that it's fantastic. So it really, it provides all the classes, of course, but it also, well, from what I saw, it tells you according to where you are, how long it takes or how far is your next class and things like that.
Nice.
So it's quite useful.
Oh, excellent.
No excuses for being late anymore.
Absolutely not. Anyway, guys, we don't have much more time. So many thanks, Gabriella. That was a great testimonial. Very encouraging.
Yeah, thank you.
Very motivating. Many thanks, Graham. Many thanks as well. And Rob, thank you.
You're welcome.
Once again.
See you next week.
We are going to see you all next week. Stay with us on Friday at 12. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.